In previous videos, I've talked about how we metabolize, break down, and absorb nutrients from our food. And today I want to talk about how we then utilize that energy, that stored energy, and to produce ATP, the chemical energy used within the human body. Now, the human body has three different energy systems that we can use to create ATP. The phosphagen energy system, the anaerobic system known as glycolysis, and the aerobic system containing Krebs and the electron transport chain. The most immediate energy system is known as the phosphagen energy system, which is a very quick one-step process to produce ATP very fast. However, it's limited in its capacity to do so, and it can only last about 15 seconds. It's important to note that we have ATP stores in our muscle cells, and that can last for about 3 seconds. And we never deplete them past around 30%, as it's a safety mechanism to inhibit the death of the cell. If there was no ATP, the cell would die. The phosphagen energy system buffers that energy ATP molecules by breaking down or hydrolyzing ATP with water and the enzyme ATPase to produce ADP, an inorganic phosphate, and a hydrogen ion. Alternatively, you can phosphorylate two ADP molecules with the enzyme adenylate kinase to get back to your ATP and then an adenosine monophosphate. There's also the ability to use creatine to phosphorylate an ADP back to the ATP with the enzyme creatine kinase. The next quickest system is the anaerobic system. Now this suggests without oxygen. It's merely the system that doesn't use oxygen. We remain breathing always. This is a 12-step process that produces ATP pretty quickly, and again limited for about 3 minutes. Now you can metabolize glucose or glycogen through this anaerobic process known as glycolysis. If you metabolize glucose, you'll produce 2 ATP. If you metabolize glycogen, the stored form of glucose within the muscle cell, you'll produce 3 ATP. Energy production becomes more difficult to sustain with high intensities for durations longer than 3 minutes, because during rapid glycolysis, the end substrate pyruvate is converted to lactic acid, and this produces muscle fatigue. If exercise was to continue past 3 minutes, intensity must have to drop because the energy systems would switch to aerobic, which has a slower ATP production. You've probably experienced this before if you've ever gone for a jog. The exercise intensity is normally doable for the energy system of anaerobic glycolysis, but after about 3 minutes, it's known as hitting a wall where you think, this is hard to sustain. If you drop that intensity, slow your speed, the rate of energy production, ATP, decreases, and aerobic energy system is able to continue. Running becomes easier, and you can sustain for a lot longer. The slowest energy system is known as the aerobic energy system, and as suggests, uses oxygen. It's a long, multiple-step process through Krebs and electron transport chain to produce ATP slowly, but for an unlimited capacity. It happens in the mitochondria of the cell and can metabolize glucose or glycogen, fatty acids, or amino acids. If glycogen or glucose are metabolized, they must first go through glycolysis as in the anaerobic system, but instead of being rapidly converted to lactate, pyruvate is converted to acetyl-CoA and enters the Krebs cycle. Through the reactions of the Krebs cycle, hydrogens are accepted by special carrier molecules known as NAD and FAD, nicotinamide adenate dinucleotide and flavin adenine dinucleotide. These carrier molecules take the hydrogen ions to electron transport chain, where they can undergo another series of reactions to produce ATP. The final hydrogen acceptor is oxygen. It combines with the hydrogen ions to produce H2O in our metabolism. For every molecule of NADH, we can produce 3 ATP. For every molecule of FADH2, we can produce 2 ATP. If fatty acids are metabolized through the Krebs cycle, they must first go through a process called beta oxidation. This cleaves off 2 carbons of the fatty acid chain and converts them to acetyl-CoA. Acetyl-CoA can then enter the Krebs cycle as described when metabolizing glucose. If amino acids are broken down, they must first be deaminated in the liver. Amino acids would be transported in the blood to the liver to take away the nitrogen component, leaving the carbon skeleton, which can then pass through the Krebs cycle and electron transport chain as previously discussed. It should be noted that gluconeogenesis, the process that creates energy from amino acids, only contributes about 5 to 10% of all the energy production in the body. It's exaggerated when carbohydrate intake is low, and therefore amino acids are catabolized to produce the energy. There you have it. That's how energy goes from storage form to use in energy production through the three energy systems in the human body. We're going to continue looking at how the practical applications of that unfold in the next couple of videos. Remember, if you like this, please give it a thumbs up. If you think you know someone that would like to hear this information, tag them so we can share this content and help everyone understand exercise science.